But I'm Louise and I work at CLAW as the Director of Programmes and Leadership Innovation. And I'm joined by my colleague Josie, who is Programme Coordinator. And also we have Andrew Smith, who's going to be saying a few words for us today as well. So welcome, Andy.
Thanks, Lou.
Okay, great. So we're going to start. I'm sure a few more people may join us as we continue. So it looks like Stephen, we're going to, hopefully you'll have some questions for us as we work through this presentation. So we wanted to give the opportunity for people who are interested in finding out more about the Cobseo Emerging Leaders Programme, and just want to say a few words about the programme and a little bit about CLAW. So at CLAW, we believe that everyone has the capability and the capacity to lead. And we are particularly interested in engaging with people in the social sector. And we work with individuals, their organisations, and like in this instance, we work with particular subsectors to develop leadership and focusing on the impact of great leadership and how that can have a much more reverberating kind of impact and influence on not only the people working in the organisations, but essentially beneficiaries of those organisations. So we work with social leaders from across all sectors, but have specific programmes like this one, which is focused on military charities sector. So the programme consists of a number of different things. It consists of access to world-class leadership experts who we bring in. We have opportunities for individuals to meet one another on the programme. So it's a cohort-based programme. So we have 3-day residentials that the participants come on, which really helps to not only build networks for those on the programme, but really build, I believe, strong bonds between those people in the cohort that last much longer and deep relationships built within the sector. Each individual on the programme gets access to an individual coach, as well as having a peer coach on the programme, which gives an opportunity to kind of have a goal-focused approach to the time on the programme, but also gives individuals the opportunity to learn coaching skills by being part of a peer coach. We have action learning sets, which, if you don't know what they are a little bit like group coaching sessions. I'm sure Andy can say a few words about action learning as well. So it's a little bit like group coaching, but where you get an opportunity to bring real world challenges you're working on and work through those with your peers on the programme. As well, on the programme, we have real world challenges that teams of people within the programme work on together. And that's an opportunity to really not just focus on yourself and your own leadership development and taking that back to your organisation, but it gives you a chance as a group of leaders to really focus on much broader or wider leadership challenges within your own sector. So, and giving you a chance to actually work through that using a human-centered design process. That's an opportunity for you to take a stand or to have a voice or to just learn more about particular leadership issues specific to your own sector, and as a group look at how you can further work towards challenging or changing those leadership issues within your own sector. There's an opportunity also to take a job placement or a secondment. So that's a week out of your everyday kind of work that you do in your organisation and your leadership. And that's an opportunity to go and think big and approach a different organisation or another person and really stretch yourself in looking at how another organisation does what they do or how another person works, but really take some time out which is focused on learning about a different environment or a different way of doing something. Throughout the programme, we use technology like this that we're using today. So we have webinars and we have online learning modules. So also it's a great opportunity to trial and use technology that you maybe wouldn't have had access to before which we know people then often adopt and take into their work lives and use as part of their leadership. And of course, this programme is designed around a cohort, so it really is focused on building a really strong network of peers who you will have access to pass the programme, and will be there, from our experience on previous programmes, are there for people into the years ahead as a supportive group of peers who are also leaders and experiencing the same trials, tribulations and challenges that you experience as a leader in the sector. We very much believe in the 70-20-10 model of leadership development, which is all about not only getting formal learning from experts, but taking that 70% of practice back into your organisations. So we'll also challenge people to be applying the learning that they're experiencing on the programme into their organisations to really get the most value from their experience of the programme. So that's what the programme involves, but we think it's important, and we're lucky enough to have Andy Smith join us today to give his own personal view of what the experience of being on the first Cobseo programme and what it meant for him, and tell you the truth and from his own experience what were the most important takeaways and the highlights of the programme from his perspective.
Thanks, Liz. I summarise the entire program before I went on to the midlife philosophy that was to don't bluff, know your stuff, and practice what you preach. And I quickly looked on the course. I understood why that worked. I had no understanding of the rationale behind it and just why that was such a useful strategy to use in leadership. But it was very basic, and I've done the NHS Leadership Academy training and the Command Leadership Management training that they teach in the forces. And they're two different spheres, different ends of the leadership spectrum. And I found that for me, my personal benefit from the program was it joined all of that together. And it kind of starts with yourself. I was quite surprised just by the impact it had on first examining me as a person, what my colleagues thought of me. The 360 feedback exercise was daunting, but quite enlightening, really, to learn what my colleagues, my peers, subordinates, my seniors, my directors, trustees, what they actually thought of me. And that's quite powerful feedback when you get that anonymously. And if when you build that within the capabilities framework that Claw use, you start to learn what your strengths are. But I found this quite surprising, but again quite empowering to see and consider that my colleagues felt I had certain strengths in certain areas, and they were not the areas that I would have I guess chose to say were my own. And the development plan you put in place with lots of experimental learning is really effective, massively effective. I was quite surprised. I've always been a natural cynic in life, but I came away from the program and found that there wasn't one area that we either taught or were able to build that I didn't take back and find a use for in my general work or work life, even in my personal life, to be fair. So that development plan you put in place, coupled with formal coaching from Jill, who was fantastic, the peer coaching, the peer mentoring, I found huge benefit from this, and all the expert leaders. They give you a huge array of tools and options. And what I love about the program is that you could pick, and I say pick, you could find which one of those suited you as an individual, and which ones you needed to work on as part of that development program. So by the end of the program, you felt like you'd made significant leaps and bounds in areas that I was either underconfident in or completely unaware that I needed to work on as a leader. So I found great personal benefit, but within work, I think the feedback I've had from my colleagues now is that they feel I'm more dynamic, much more approachable. I've had some really positive feedback working on the areas that they felt I needed to work on. And having acknowledged those and put a plan in place, it's really good to go back to them and see the positive changes that's had for them. And they were very simple things, but on a wider scale and an individual, if you look at it from a team and an individual perspective, those little changes meant significant gains within the workplace. My organisation was going through a significant period of change, so those leadership skills and that ability to self-assess came in, really handy at the time. So I feel like it's joined a lot up for me. I've worked as a leader for 5 or 6 years. I feel I'm empowered to be the kind of leader I want to be now, and I've got the knowledge and experience and the peer network to do it as well. And I don't think a week goes by where I don't contact one of my core fellows now, either for some impartial advice or formal advice, the partnerships I've been able to build and make, and some lifelong peers, I think, which I wouldn't have been able to get without the programme. And the way it's taught means that I think we're all very open to be quite honest with each other, communicate in what they say is a very courageous way, and you learn to do that in a way that benefits you and your organisation. I really can't advocate for it enough, really.
Wow, thanks, Andy.
Okay.
Great. I think you touched on all of the key points, and particularly for those people who might have already looked at the brochure we have and the application form and looked around for the point about it's about yourself first and foremost, and learning more about yourself as a leader, and then understanding the context, and then how you apply that and work with people, because fundamentally that's what you're doing as a leader, is working with people. So amazing, you touched on all those points, and also highlighted some things that we didn't put in this presentation about some of the tools that you have access to on the programme. So things like you say, the 360, which I agree I think is a really powerful experience for people who maybe haven't had that experience before, in terms of engaging with their teams and getting feedback. So that's great. I have one question, you, Andy. What would be your top tip, if anything, for someone who's thinking about applying, that you would, if you look back on your experience, what you wish you'd done or known? Or
I wish I'd have given myself more time early on, because there are parts of it that I committed whatever time I could at the time, and to be honest, looking back, I could have, if I knew now just how important that was going to be for me, I'd have made sure I made the time for it. And the preparatory work you do in the first month, that really equipped you to start the first residential with a kind of on that program. So it's to give it your full commitment. Genuinely one of those programs where you absolutely get out of it whatever you put in. And sadly, when I first started it, I didn't appreciate just how much of an impact it was going to have. So that would be my advice to anyone, is to start it with 100% effort, and you'll reap the rewards, I think.
it's great. It's definitely, you get what you put in. I think you get out what you put in. Yeah, get that vibe. Great, thanks, Andy. So we are just going to say a few words about some key dates for anyone who's interested in applying to the next cohort.
Yes, so as you can see on the screen, the deadline for the applications is the 3rd of December. So that is a week on Monday, and the deadline will be at midnight on the 3rd of December for you to complete your application form. The deadline for your nomination, we also have here as the 3rd of December, so the same time. So please allow enough time for whoever you've chosen to nominate you to complete their nomination form. If you're worried that they may not be able to meet that deadline, please get in touch with me, and I will try to help you complete your application in time so that you have a chance to be on the programme. We will be moderating your applications the following week, and we will let everyone know the outcome and whether they have been successful in gaining a place in the programme the week of the 17th of December. So we will have everyone hopefully enrolled before your Christmas breaks, and we'll then be in touch with you in the new year to start the programme in February. So the first part of the program will be the online Discover, which is the 4-week kind of introductory element that Andrew just mentioned, that really kind of kicks off the program with more about our approach to leadership, and helps you to develop your plan for the rest of the program. There are 2 3-day residentials as part of the program, and those will be in March, from the 18th to the 20th of March, and also the second one is in June, from the 10th to the 12th of June. Both of those residentials are held at a place called Ashhorn Hill in Leamington Spa. It's a really lovely venue, and quite central in the country, so hopefully wherever you are, you'll be able to get there quite easily for those. And then I guess you'll have a couple more months after the second residential to wrap up the program before we'll have end of the program and transition and celebration, which will be in September. So that would be the 6 months of the program. And yeah, any questions about dates or deadlines, please get in touch with me. You'll get my email after this. We'll be sending things out. So yeah, please get in touch. Okay, I am also going to talk to you a little bit about the eligibility criteria. So for the Emerging Leader Programme, we kind of have a guideline of looking for people with around 3 to 6 years of leadership experience in the social sector. So the Cobseo programme is, of course, solely for people working in charities or social enterprises that work for the benefit of the armed forces community, so the military charity sector. But the leadership experience that you have may be in a different sector, and you've more recently moved into the armed forces community sector, but you should be working for an organisation that now is part of the military charity sector. And yeah, so I think that is all of the information that I have to give you. And we have a couple of questions that myself and Louise will be able to answer now, if I can find my chat. There we go.
Great. So we've got some questions coming in from the chat box, but we also have some frequently asked questions that we'll be able to share some insight into, and hopefully Andy might be able to answer some questions too, which I've seen you've been doing on the chat already.
So let's start with one of Stephen's questions. He's here. So Stephen is asking anything that a participant can do before the course to prepare.
Yeah, so Andy, you replied as well there about being going in with an open mind and thinking about the time commitment, not much needed in terms of preparation. I'd agree with that, Stephen. So I think if I could give one piece of advice to anybody, it would be to take your diary, look at it and start to block out time. And so we tend to say this programme over the 6 months is the commitment of about a day a week, which is obviously the weeks where you're at a residential and you've got a week where you'd be out doing secondment. But if you average that all out across the whole programme, it averages out to be about a day a week. Of course, depending on what commitment you get from your organisation, they may well allow you to take a whole day off a week, but it's not as common as people having to find the equivalent of a day a week in blocks of time for this experience. So I would say blocking out that time to really focus and really think about the programme is important before the programme even starts. Because a lot of people on reflection, like Andy, say they wish that they had had more time. And like Andy says at the beginning, because when you start, your diary is more condensed closer to the time that you're in your diary, and the further away you get into the future, it's a little bit more blank. So people then are able to build time in to their diaries when they start the programme, and they realise how valuable it is and how much time they should dedicate to it. Further on in the programme, they end up having more time So I think if it was me and I was giving advice to anyone before you even start the program, if you can block out some time, then when you start the program, you've already given yourself a bit of a head start. And if it's an equivalent of a day a week, so if you were blocking yourself out a couple of hours at different points in a week that are equivalent to a day, then you'd be really setting yourself up for a head start and a really great experience. So I hope that helps. I don't know if you have any other questions, Stephen. So we have some other questions that come in as frequently asked questions. So the question about what makes this programme tailored specifically to the armed forces sector. So you will see that we have other equivalents of this Emerging Leaders Programme. We have a youth sector programme, we have a women and girls sector programme, and on the surface they're all the same. So you'll look at the inputs and generally they're all the same. But what we do to make this programme specific to the armed forces sector is we work with people who have expertise from the armed forces sector. So we have people who have leadership experience of your sector who come in and they work with us. They might be facilitators, they may well be people we bring in as part of the fireside chats at residentials. The whole cohort is from your sector, so that really is one of the fundamental things that differentiates this programme and it being focused on the armed forces charity sector, because the context in which you're all working is this context, and so you as participants really make this programme one that is tailored to your sector, because a lot of the programme is not just learning from the expertise that we bring and the experts we work with, which is 10%. It's also we have the opportunity for you to work on a challenge which is specific to your sector, so that makes it focused again. And then the 70% of kind of you applying your learning and being part of action learning sets where people are talking about leadership challenges and things happening in your sector, that's what really makes contextually this programme specific to your sector. I think the question about what differentiates this programme to other leadership programmes, again, kind of on the top line, it might be very similar, but I think the thing that really differentiates a Cobseo Emerging Leader Programme is the cohort-based learning. So the fact that you are not on this programme as an individual, you will be required to work with other people for your success and their success on the programme, which comes not only in the way of working in an action learning set with other people, in the challenge groups, but we expect people on this programme to also engage with each other and share learning and share content and things they found in between the formal points of the programme. So it's very much a group learning experience as well as an individual one.
Yeah, we get a lot of positive feedback about the peer learning aspects. One of the groups that we're running at the minute has particularly found the benefit in the cohort and what they've learned from the other people, and being able to have that support and that network of people to ask questions to and find common ground in the challenges that they're facing, as particularly if you're in the same sector. That seems to be the case.
Yeah, and again, I think Andy said that. He said it didn't go a week didn't go by where he wasn't talking to someone that he knows from the programme for various different reasons. So yeah, I think that's what differentiates this programme to other programmes. And I think the final FAQ that I'll just cover off before we bring this webinar to an end, because it's one that people often have a lot of questions about, is about the challenge, the group challenge that you work on, and what does that imply and what does it mean? So the group challenge is a real world action project that you will be working on with a group of people from the programme, where you define what leadership challenge you want to focus on, and then we take you through a process of using human-centred design to help you identify a solution to the problem that you identified. So it plays a few roles. It gives you an opportunity to practice your leadership development and behaviour that you might want to practice in a safe group of people. It allows you to practice and really interrogate what it means to create a high-performing team with a group of people that you're not used to working with on a regular basis. And it gives you the opportunity to really focus on a leadership issue or challenge that you would like to dedicate some time and be curious and inquire about that's specific to your sector.
Okay, thank you very much, Louise, for answering those questions. And that is all the time that we have for the webinar. We hope to have some applications from you guys soon, and we'll be in touch. So if you have any questions or concerns about the application or anything like that, then please get in touch with us via email or by calling us at the office.
Great, and thanks again, Andy, for joining us and sharing your insights. That was so valuable.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Thanks, everyone. Pleasure.
Okay, so we will end the webinar here. So thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.